What's good, everybody? In this episode, Erwin and I talk about the cost of making good choices and why, sometimes making good choices is like super expensive. Um, Erwin calls it mindful consumption, and I'm going to have to agree with that. Also, later in the episode, we do a new segment. I don't know the name yet, even to this day. We just talk about nerdy stuff and like stuff that really like gets us kind of excited. So I hope you enjoy it. Peace.
What's up, everybody? This is the Difficult to Please podcast, episode 22.
22 is the last time I checked. Yeah.
Yes. I'm still in Portland. JV's still in San Diego.
Yeah, and unfortunately, I'm still here. Yeah.
We try to get back into things, doing the remote podcasts, keeping it going.
It's not bad. It's just that I know Erwin's been busy too. So, yeah. Yeah. I mean, I was really surprised when he told me like, "Yo, I got deadlines. Like, I can't do it this week." I'm like, "Oh, okay, that's good. I respect that. I understand. Like, that makes sense." I was just like, something I was not expecting. I was like, "Oh,
yeah." There was no way because I was the last few days at work, even starting from last Wednesday, I was staying late after work, so I was like, fuck, dude, like I just couldn't get all my shit done, and we were just up against some things that we had to get out for our clients. So for me to take care or do the podcast and also come home late from work and also have additional projects I gotta take care of, it was just not gonna work last week. So
okay,
we're here.
I respect that.
It's the October podcast.
Yeah, it's October 2nd as of the recording. Yes. And hopefully we can knock them out a lot faster than last time. Yeah, we had a lot of setbacks. And I had a lot of learning, like a learning curve on my part.
Oh, there's still a lot. There's as podcasters. I mean, we've been doing this podcast since 2017. And
pretty much almost 3 years into it now.
Yeah, like we've been doing the in-person podcast, which is, I mean, that's already kind of like a tempo in itself, and trying to be more comfortable and the segues and getting our topics down and talking about that in a really comfortable manner. But when you do this remotely, it's definitely a different animal, and it's just trying to get there. Trying to get that vibe back. It's a little difficult.
And no Reptar on me.
No Reptar, but Reptar's here.
I
He's
appreciate
happy.
Reptar, but man, yeah, I remember like segments in our podcast for like, oh, okay, well, what's up, Reptar?
Reptar gets so psyched when he's near humans. So
that's good. Yeah, it makes me feel loved for the first time. Just kidding.
Well, how's everything in San Diego?
I don't know. I don't really go outside, so I really wouldn't know lately.
It sounded like Frank Ocean.
Wait, has he said something like that? Is Frank Ocean like a reclusive now?
Well, because I was reading something where like he's working on music right now, and he's working with somebody in Brazil, but he doesn't do the internet.
Oh, that's good.
So
the internet's a bad place. So.
Yeah, so he doesn't send his files, or he doesn't receive files through any kind of service. So he has a USB stick that he would give to somebody to who would be traveling to Brazil to get to that producer.
Okay, that's a little too much, but
he would fly himself to Brazil and give it himself.
I can understand why he would do that, but I think that's a little too much, especially if you're trying to like produce an album or something. Unless you really, really want to direct like face to face with somebody, I can understand that.
Yeah, but it's just like that's like extra being paranoid and all that of
Leaking?
leaks and having your album out. I mean, it's an interesting way of how he's approaching his artistry and how he's very meticulous about having his shit very like tight.
Okay, from that standpoint, I understand. Yeah, that makes sense. You know what doesn't make sense though?
What's up?
Fucking why making good choices is super expensive. Like, okay, like you know, for the Frank
I
Ocean
don't
thing,
get it.
like
Why though?
okay, like for the Frank Ocean thing, like if you for to prevent leaks, to prevent all that good stuff, or all that bad stuff, he would actually need to go over there, or he would have to send like a middleman over there to like hand deliver everything and stuff like that. Like it's crazy. It's pricey. It's expensive. Like the convenience of the internet could have made that trip like at no cost. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
But to do something safe, to do something right, to do something like accurate, it would cost money to do it. And that's not even including like his hotel price or anything or whatever food, you know, like all that like added cost to that whole trip of delivering that USB stick to somebody. You know what I mean? Like
Yes.
it's so much effort, so much money. Like, and that's why like email was there to make sure that, yeah, I'm like, no, like you don't have to do all that. Like you could do this all remote and it's could be fine. You don't have to like travel over there. Like imagine like if you and I like had to travel from Portland to San Diego just to record a podcast, like it would just never work. Like
oh no, hell no.
Yeah, so like even though it's like kind of nice to do it over face to face because like we could like vibe off each other better, I guess, awkwardly. But yeah. So I'm just wondering like why it in a weird way it costs money too. Or it's more expensive to do it seemingly the right thing. Again, and this could be applied to all like different things, to like making better choices in your life or whatever. Like,
oh yeah, I agree.
Like, I'll give an example.
Yeah,
like vaping too. Like, I would say vaping's more expensive than cigarettes, and it costs a lot to vape. And like, even though vape is supposed, okay, I'm excluding the news right now, but
okay,
vaping is like it costs a lot, but technically it. It's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to like.
You're kind of hard to make those arguments when the.
It's really hard to make those arguments right now without busting into science. But vaping is supposed to be like a healthier choice compared to smoking cigarettes. Excluding the fact that like you're not putting THC to your vape. There's like little evidence that vaping and like vaping and cigarettes are like equally harmful, but like the fact that people are using THC is another issue, and that's why like they're still looking into it versus people who only do store-bought vaping. Anyways, yeah, like vaping costs a lot. Cigarettes are super easy and they're actually cheaper and they're not good for you. But someone who wants to make a good choice has to pay more money into it. Like they have to buy like nicotine patches or vaping or the nicotine gum or something like that, and that's a lot more pricier than cigarettes, you know.
Well, I was just thinking about like a person who would smoke cigarettes versus someone who has like a whole vaping kit. You know, it's I don't know. Is it more cost effective? I feel like it's if you look at the end year, I feel like it's like the same.
Right.
Depending on how much you would smoke a cigarette versus how much you would vape.
Right. So it kind of gives me that one, like, I forgot what the syndrome is called, but it's like, oh, because it's healthier, I could do more. But then like by doing more, it offsets like the good of it. You know what I mean? It's like saying like, oh, since vaping is healthier than cigarettes, I might as well vape like whatever, how many number, but it was still like equal amount to the number of cigarettes or something like that. Well, anyways, what I'm trying to say is it's difficult. Like it's seemingly more expensive to make better choices in life, and like we can apply that anywhere. We can apply that to like food, technology, or even fucking cars nowadays.
So the better choice is often the more expensive.
Correct. I mean,
Yeah.
do you find that
Okay.
weird though? Like it's like if something is supposed to be good for the people, then why should only the selective few have it versus like everyone? Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, I can see that. I mean, part of it, like if we focus in on food, and I'll primarily talk about food because I was researching into like good choices and why they taste, or rather not taste, but they cost more, and you know all that. But it's like not only is our economy all messed up because of the way that we've lowered the price of agriculture, like in products, to these what we would think is like affordable and sustainable, but after, like, you know, when you really look into like the labor practices, or like how are people getting paid off of like $2 a pound apples, you know, like does
Right.
you know, how does this make sense
So-
you know?
So someone pointed this out in an article I was reading. It said making like those choices are a reflection of your morals. It doesn't necessarily mean like it's better or something like that, but it kind of just shows it's more of a show of like, this is what I believe in, but it doesn't necessarily mean it's better. It's like saying like, because I drive a green car, I only eat organic food and blah 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 means I'm doing more for the environment. That's kind of like, this is how I'm trying to contribute and this is what I believe is right, versus someone who's like, well, I'm going to keep a car for 10 years and like this or something like that, or try to like they'll still like eat healthy, but they'll eat like get vegetables at Vaughn's, versus someone who eats healthy and gets everything from like a flea market. Like there's not necessarily anything wrong with it. They're both making like positive choices or something like that. It's just that for some odd reason, like you'll look at the person who gets it at the flea market or whatever, the farmer's market, and you're like, oh, this person's definitely making like healthier choices or something like that. But that's not necessarily true. You know what I mean? Like,
oh, like I remember
it just shows their values.
Yeah, because remember when we used to work at Albertsons, and I remember when I was checking, or being a cashier, I you know, I noticed this one woman, she had organic eggs on the conveyor belt. You know, I was just making conversation, and I know the price. You know, the price of eggs, organic eggs, is at least $1.50 more than if you just buy a dozen egg. Like,
right.
You know, you're paying a premium for the organic eggs,
right?
And I frankly just asked her, just partly out of ignorance and partly because I just wanted to know, because my family we never fucking bought organic eggs, and
right, that's a 21st century kind of thing.
Yeah, so I was like, I asked her like, yo, like, is it a difference you feel to have organic eggs? And like, you know, she replied back like, well, I mean, I can't taste the difference, but it's like I ethically feel better, or something along the lines of
Ethics.
I feel for whatever she meant, like whether that's the way that the chickens were being raised and fed, or the cut of pay goes to the actual workers versus a big farm, whatever. Like that's the whole kind of argument of what the idea of you paying for organic because you want to make some kind of ethical choice or moral choice.
Right. Okay, I can see that. See, that's what I can agree with that for sure. Like, but on a nutritional level, there's really no difference. But I think on an ethical level, it's like completely different. It's like trying to.
There's certain things I think when it comes to nutritional. I think there's like micronutrients that are kind of different. But I think when you
evidence.
look at like if you think about like organically raised beef versus like regular beef.
Okay.
Like if I was reading fucking NPR and they were saying how there's more omega-3 fatty acids in organic dairy and meat up to 50% more than actual like fucking I don't know, stable. I don't know what do you call the cows in the
I don't want to say like free roaming cows or something like that because that's not
the ones that are kind of like in the pens and all that. But so
right.
Yeah, like there's some evidence that there are things like that, but I don't know about vegetables. I think when it comes to meats, animal products, yeah, there is. I think in the nutrients, micronutrients, I'm not sure.
I can see that just because like that means the cow or whatever animal is like they have more
a different diet or they have a different
diet and they have room to like move and exercise, which will produce all that. I mean, in vegetables, it's kind of different. It's just like the only real difference between like organic and non-organic food is that there's more antioxidants in organic food.
It's like I feel like there's like a mycopolian.
That's not. Like, but that's not a nutrition aspect. That's a really weird thing. Like you could say like the vitamin K and all like whatever is in vegetables, like they're all relatively the same. But then it's just like, oh yeah, there's more antioxidants. And
I mean, it's almost like that wine kind of like analogy of like terroir of what the soil is around you and how that affects the grapes that are grown for wine. Like,
oh yeah, I agree. Yeah,
like there's like big things about that, but like,
right. And I agree.
Yeah, I think there's multiple things when it comes to like your food and like what ends up in the micronutrients. But I mean, like we digress here, but it's just a matter of like the value that you're spending for let's say let's take a steak for example, right? Okay. Like if you buy a regular 8-ounce steak that's at $8 a pound versus organic steak which is like 15, it's double the price ish,
okay,
for that same steak. So you're paying double the price for a 50% increase of like omega-3s or something that is better for you versus like this
$8 steak.
This regular steak.
Okay.
So I mean, do you think double the price even is worth it for those even nutrients?
No, not at all.
Yeah, I think it mitigates that. Like
But there is one thing that organic food has over like conventional food is that it tastes better. Really, it tastes better. Like if you go to a restaurant, you should like all your ingredients should be organic food. But if you're cooking at home, there's like it's okay to have conventional food. But then like the thing with conventional food is that without conventional food, like people in the world will go hungry. Like, you know what I mean? Like conventional food like saved the world. Like it's crazy. But like organic food can't save the world. Organic food is only offered to the people who can afford it. But like, yeah, like that's the weird like ethical thing about it. Like, yeah, okay, fine. They're getting paid better, blah, 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 blah. But at the same time, it's like, well, conventional food has actually done the greater good compared to organic food. But
No,
hey,
and
I know there's a
yeah.
lot of ethical reasons behind it. But yeah,
Well, because it's like if you think about a place like Whole Foods, who 80% of their products are organic. There's a reason why they call it whole paychecks. There's a reason why just a basket of like the same amount of food you buy at, let's say, like a Vons or a even a Target,
okay,
that basket is gonna cost you closer to $100.
Yeah, that is very true.
Like versus like if you go to Target and you get like $25 worth of groceries. It's
So I'm gonna
Good.
switch viewpoints on this. So I'm gonna say that if you shop at Whole Foods, do you think, I remember we are kind of like talking about this in our last podcast episode, but do you think you're gonna be a little bit more deliberate about what you buy? Because the biggest problem in like American groceries is that we have the biggest waste of food ever.
Right.
And like I'm saying, like because you're buying like expensive things, expensive food, expensive that's healthier, do you feel like okay, now like your portions are gonna kind of get cut down? And like if you think about it, like if you only shop Whole Foods, you're probably gonna be less overweight kind of thing. You know what I mean? Like okay, not overweight. I'm gonna say overeating. There's a more chance for you to like no. There's a less chance for you to overeat if you only shop at Whole Foods, right? Because you're buying like super expensive stuff, so you kind of have to like make do with like the, I guess, less quantity of what you have.
I mean,
but you're eating healthier.
That's a great assumption. I think that's like I'm trying to think of even when I go to Whole Foods and I need to buy something.
I've never been to Whole Foods yet.
Well, I will say because Amazon bought Whole Foods, they've tried it. They've tried so much to make Whole Foods more accessible. And they incentivize, because if you have Prime, like you have deals at Whole Foods.
That's the networking service.
Yeah, I know. So they just they try and kind of make. I've seen it. There's because when you go inside now, that there's signage saying that this is an Amazon Prime member deal. There's a discounted price or whatever. But yeah, when I go to Whole Foods, I feel like I am more deliberate, but at the same time, I don't go to Whole Foods as my primary source of like grocery shopping. It's more of a supplemental thing. Like if there's something specifically that is only sold, or if there's a specific deal from Whole Foods, like I'll go and I'll grab whatever that is, and maybe some fresh veggies, but that's it. And that's
Go ahead.
No, I was gonna say, and that's still gonna cost me because for the most part, I've bought meats from Whole Foods,
right,
or seafood from Whole Foods, which is it's more expensive there than other places. But go ahead.
So I was wondering, like, have you met anyone who only shops at Whole Foods? Like, if that's like, this is the only grocery shop I ever shop at, kind of thing.
I mean,
I'm just curious. Have you ever met someone like that?
I don't think so.
No, right?
I mean,
they're probably on the same boat as you.
Brandon would know because Brandon fucking worked at Whole Foods. And
I should ask him that. That's a very good question to ask.
It's a very pointy question to our 10 listeners.
Hell yeah! And one of them is Brandon. What's up, Brandon? Calling you out. Just kidding.
But yeah, I mean. Yeah, I know I've never met anybody who's only shopped at Whole Foods. Like I've only heard people who like myself would just pop in once in a while, or just they just try and get lunch there because it's convenient.
Or Himalayan pink salt.
Yeah, just like very special
like
products,
super specific items.
Yeah, it's just like what I do appreciate about Whole Foods though is that they offer a lot of local, uh, I don't say companies, but like
Well, local
products.
foods. Yeah,
Yeah.
local
So
products.
like Portland, there's a Portland brand ketchup or like a Portland brand mustard, Portland brand barbecue sauce. And there's like there's local ice cream shops that that they carry. So that those they like that thing, like that idea of having more locality, I guess,
Hmm.
in the grocery stores. It's definitely been um effective, in other grocery stores, because now like Safeway Vons has that.
Right.
Albertsons has now started to do that. So it's like that trickle down effect, which
Right.
is
Right.
cool. But at the same time, it's like I'm still not going to shop at Whole Foods as my number one.
Got it. And I realize, for some odd reason, I feel like I spend more at Vons than I do at Trader Joe's, which is super weird.
Well, because if it's like proximity, right? If you're closer to Vons than a Trader Joe's, you're going to go to a Vons.
Right, but I feel like when I go shopping at a Trader Joe's versus when I go shopping to a Vons, I feel like I spend more at Vons rather than Trader Joe's, which is super random. But even though I know Trader Joe's is better. Anywho,
That's very interesting.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll keep tabs on that more often. Okay, but like other than food, like there are other choices, like other better choices we can make for society, or like for ourselves or for our families that are like, or even for our health, like that are seemingly like more expensive. Like one of my biggest gripes is actually Apple Watches. Do you use one?
No, I'm just curious as your point, but continue.
Okay, so an Apple Watch is a luxury item, right? And one of the
Yes.
biggest things they have advertised, I think a few years ago up to now, is that like, oh, it's supposed to like, the big tech companies are trying to get into healthcare. Like that's their long term goal. Like you could slowly start seeing that right now. Amazon just bought like so many different online pharmacies. Apple's trying to work with like personal what do you call that? Like employee electrical health records. They're trying to get into that too. Same with Google. They're all trying to get into like some version of healthcare. Anyways, so you know how the Apple can tell like your heart rate and your
Yes.
They're basically like an upgraded Fitbit kind of thing, right? And that's where like technology is kind of going. But then like they're trying to claim like, yeah, this is good for you. Like this is going to be healthy. They're going to make like you're going to be aware more, and like if you ever like fall and hurt yourself or something, like the Apple Watch is basically what's that one thing called? Where the thing where the senior citizens would have around their neck and they're like, help, I can't get up.
Oh, I know what you're talking about, but I don't know what it's called.
Yeah, so it's supposed to be like the new version of that.
Well, okay,
but it costs like how much?
Call it?
What's up?
I don't want to interrupt, but this is so weird because usually in person this is more like easier to catch. But did you know that Apple Watch has a menstrual cycle app now?
I've heard about that. Yes, like they can predict that your menstrual cycle is. Yeah,
that shit is. That's why it's just kind of like the idea that big tech is getting into your health, and this whole kind of like idea of they're investing in your information. But yeah, I mean, it's true.
I mean, if you think about it, you know how Amazon just released 80 products on their last meeting a few weeks ago?
Yes.
Like, if you actually don't think about it, like they released a smart oven, right? Or they were going to release a smart oven eventually, right? But in the long-term goal of having that smart oven, it's supposed to tell you if you're having too much sodium, it's going to stop it for you. Like for example, if you have like 5 bags of popcorn, it will probably stop you and be like, according to your high blood pressure, you shouldn't have this much, so we're not gonna pop this popcorn for you. That's like the future of the smart microwave. No, I'm not bullshitting you. Like that's like the potential goal. If like you ever serve with like a sign up with like an Amazon like healthcare service, like
Okay.
that's not far from the future where your technology will prevent you from intaking certain things that will damage your diet. That's a big trip, right? This is like 5-10 years in the future, but like it, or whenever, if unless they get broken up. But yeah, so it's nuts. Like all this good technology that's supposed to help save you.
Okay.
Other than Amazon is doing a really good job at it, but that's part of their thing. But it's pretty pricey, so I'm gonna go back to the Apple Watch. The Apple Watch is fucking expensive, right? Like,
Yes.
the Apple Watch is supposed to be so good for you. Like, it's supposed to make sure like you're sleeping well, your heart rate's up, and like making sure you're exercising, etc., etc., etc. Like giving you all these cues to live like a better, healthy life. Like, like a health scientist was saying, like if Apple's saying if that is all true, like Medicare should be able to pay for it. You know what I mean? Right? Like, you know what I mean? Like it's a net if it's that much of a net positive for people's health, like government should like subsidize that. You know what I mean?
I do,
but it's
like,
not going to be that way.
Like
You
I don't
have to pay for that service.
Yeah, because I feel like even if tech, like if you want to assume the best in this, like I'm trying to like think outside of myself and be like trying to see what the end game is, and see that if all this technology is supposed to make your life better, like why, like I feel like the idea that these companies still have so much say in your diet, and they want to have you pay more to make you better, like the why this, yeah, you're right, this doesn't make any sense. Like why doesn't the government regulate and be like, yo, hold up this is too much here.
Right. So like, I mean, that's like the current state we're in. Like we want to make good choices, but those good choices come with a cost. And
because
like,
everything is premium content now. Like everything is like everything is Patreon.
Right. It's super nuts. And like, and I understand it. Like it's fine, but like, I don't know, maybe this is like the social justice warrior in me who's saying like, what about the others who can't afford it? Like, why can't we like, what is it? Not raise the roof. What do you call the floor?
Raise the roof.
Not raise the floor. Not higher the ceiling. But what do you call that? The one with the bottom, the ground, the floor. Raise the floor rather than the ceiling, or something like that. Elevate the. I don't know, something like that. Elevate the ground rather than rise the ceiling. This episode is sponsored by Audible. Audible is a subscription service that allows you to buy a bunch of audiobooks. Like I think they have like the biggest collection of audiobooks on the internet, and you can listen to it on your phone or on your PC. So like, you know, if you're ever on the go, you just put in some buds and just listen to either like a fiction or nonfiction. One of the recommendations I want to make this month is Cal Newport's So Good They Can't Ignore You. I know it's a little bit older, but I always think it's a good listen. His book talks about, instead of following your passion, is that you should be developing your skills to help you stand out from the rest. And by standing out from the rest and being like a rare breed, people will gravitate toward you and they'll want to listen to you or want your opinion on things. And that actually like helps develop a lot of meaning in people's work. So I recommend that book. You could go to www.audibletrial.com/difficult to please, and you can start your 30-day free trial with us like for free. Like you don't even have to choose this book. You can choose a different totally book that you're more into. But again, that's www.audibletrial.com/difficult to please. Go. Peace. Basically, what I'm trying to say is like we should like narrow the gap between like those who have and those who have not, versus expand the cap. That's what I'm saying.
Expand the cap. So you're saying
it's better to it's better to catch everybody up into the same level rather than like higher the ceiling.
Yeah. Okay. I see what you mean. Because like, I mean, okay, if we say it is like everything is a Patreon, right? Everything is a GoFundMe. Everything's some kind of Kickstarter. Like, why don't we already do the things that are? What if we don't need a Kickstarter? What if we don't need a GoFundMe? What if we don't need a Patreon to sustain ourselves? And that's why you should vote for Andrew Yang, Universal Basic Income. No, but yeah, there's some good points to that. Like, I think there has to be some kind of I don't want to say regulation, but it's
a revolution, homie.
There needs to be like an outside monitoring of what's being done to kind of like either help folks. Like, if you're eating shitty, like, you gotta have better choices, right? Like,
right.
Like, it isn't just about like, oh, hey, like, here's if I had a budget that like $100 a month for groceries, is it better for me to drop all that hundo on one basket at one hand basket at Whole Foods, or is it better for me to like actually go to
somewhere else?
Yeah, like a whole
like grocery outlet or something like that.
$25 a week and go to like grocery outlet.
Yeah,
food for less, or even just going to Smart and Final or Costco and get way more value, but because of like the way that neighborhoods are set up and there's
marketing.
Yeah, it's like, okay, like for example, Mira Mesa PQ, where's the nearest Whole Foods? Okay, it's in Del Mar. Where's the nearest?
You're right. Yeah, it is. Or like La Jolla. Yeah, I was like thinking like, where is it?
Like, if you want the premium, right? You have to go to Del Mar or La Jolla for premium Whole Foods. And then, okay, if you want second tier, like there's fucking there's Vaughn's across the street,
Sprouts, Trader Joe's,
and if you want bottom tier, there's Grocery Outlet, there's
Smart and Final kind of thing.
Yeah, I mean, I guess, yeah. So there's the proximity of things, but like,
right.
This is like even middle class like neighborhoods versus if you were living in either like a lower class neighborhood, or if you're like, say, Chula Vista Southeast, or if you're like a Ramona, like, what choice do you really have? You know,
right. And it's like unfortunate it has to be that way, but it's like at the same time, do you feel like culturally, like we kind of like have those stores that kind of like separate people in a way? Like I feel no shame going to like Grocery Outlet or Smart and Final or something like that, because for me, like, food is food. Yeah, definitely there's like better premium food over there, but like when it comes to like the fruits and vegetables, there's really like for the stuff that really 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 matters, there's really like no difference other than like organic food tastes better. Like I don't see the evidence that like all the nutritional.
It does. I'm telling you, like, from the last episode when we went berry picking, like I've bought blueberries, I bought blackberries since, and they don't. Even from Whole Foods, that shit does not taste the same as a hand picked. I'm trying to get my David Chang on. Like, that shit is like, it's such a different fucking taste.
Right. And I'm going to agree with you. Like, I'm not going to deny that. I'm like, yeah, I'm pretty sure that's going to taste so much better than conventional food, which is built to last longer. You know what I mean? So that's the trade-off. Like, it's going to taste, it's going to last longer. It's going to taste worse. Yeah. Something with something more ephemeral, like such as salmon berries, is going to taste better, but not last as long. I understand that, and that's the trade-off. But I think it's an important thing that we should like make everyone aware, is that we shouldn't ever shun like people who are eating healthy, who are trying to eat healthy, but it's not necessarily at a premium restaurant or a premium like marketplace. Like, like it shouldn't be that way. Like I would never look down on someone who's trying to eat healthy at Vaughn's versus someone who's trying to eat healthy at Whole Foods. For me, it's the same fucking thing. Like, I don't give a fuck. Other probably like, oh, this tastes better. That's about it.
Yeah, and just to go back to like one of our earlier points, saying that you go into a grocery store and buying something organic or is more of a reflection of your ethics than actual taste.
Right.
I mean,
I agree.
even though for the most part, yes, organic does taste different. It's better for you. That's why, for the most
Better
part,
for
all
you.
the
It tastes
well,
better, son. I'm just kidding.
that's what I'm saying. Is like, yeah, marginally, I'll say the micronutrients are kind of marginal when it comes to vegetables, but like I'm like for meats, dairy, like and anything else, like I mean, there's a difference. There's
Right.
a big
Right.
fucking difference. Just like ice cream. Fucking ice cream tastes better if it's fucking
That is very
organic.
true. Organic ice cream is so fucking good. I'm not gonna lie.
It's
That's
delicious.
actually so fucking good. And like, okay, so my last point I want to gripe on is electric vehicles. Like, without a doubt, no. If you do not own a home, in my opinion, or you do not have, like, you live in a condo area that doesn't support electric vehicles, there's almost little to zero point of owning an electric vehicle. This is speaking from personal experience too, but yeah, I don't think you should own an electric vehicle unless you have a place that's like that advocates for electric vehicles in your apartment or housing complex. Other than that, I think you should just stick with a gas vehicle and just run that shit to the ground. Like, that's my opinion. Like, the reason why I got the stupid plug-in hybrid is because, like, I was thinking, like, oh, maybe I should do, like, better in the world. So I'm going to buy a fucking plug-in hybrid. And, like, now that I think about it, I shouldn't have done it because there's so much extra cost that comes to it to maintain in the car. I'm just like, holy fuck, if I'd known this,
Like
I
what?
wouldn't have gotten it. Like, for example, so when you charge your car at like a car station or whatever,
Okay.
electric car station, okay, so for me, to get my battery from 0 to full, it's like $7, right?
Okay.
And then like my gas is, well, because the gas prices are kind of like weird right now.
Mm-hmm.
At lowest, it's $20. At highest, is $25 to full. It's only 6 gallons, pretty much. So I'm spending like either $27 to like $32 on gas every 10 days, kind of thing. And that's
Dude, that's like the same as if you do the math, that's like the same as a regular car.
Yes, and that's what I realized. So like the only time that $7 gets negated is that if I transfer that payment to my electric bill, aka if you own a house or something like that, or have a place that has free charging. So that's what I was like thinking, like, man, motherfucker, like if I had these calculations better planned in my head, I would have like not gotten my hybrid car.
So your car, because it's a plug-in hybrid,
Right?
For the most part, it's using the gas.
It uses gas and electric. So if I want, so like I have a button that tells the car to go gas and electric, but at default it's just electric.
Mm-hmm.
Does that make sense? So for the first like 40 miles, it's electric. Or if I go on a highway, like I can split it where it's like equal gas and equal electric, and it's fine. Then it acts as a hybrid.
Oh, but that negates it because you have to drive on a freeway to work. Correct. So if we live closer to work, it'd be like better for you because you're just using the electricity.
Okay, so the only way so I did like the math on or the calculations on it. If I lived in a house in Penasquitos, I would never have to pay for gas the rest of my life. So that transfer of money. So I looked up SDG&E, his cost. Okay, it's 22 cents to to 50 cents per kilowatt of electricity, and my car can hold up to 14 kilowatts. So it's basically it's $3 to $7 extra to my electric bill, basically.
So yeah, so it transfers. That's what you mean, right?
So it's either going to be like $14 a day of electricity to go to work, or but I would never have to pay for gas, so it's never like but because you don't have the electric charging at home or at work, you're fucked. Yes, or at least I have to pay for it at work. Work offers it, but
you have to pay for
have
it.
to pay for it. Yeah.
So you might as well just got on the full electric then.
No, the only problem with me and a full electric is that actually, yeah, I could have done that. I could have done that maybe. But the only thing is like if I run out of electricity, I have nowhere to charge it. I can't charge it at home, and my gas station's right across the street, so my gas is my saving grace kind of thing, just in case of like all my electricity is gone. So yeah,
Well, yeah,
it costs.
it's like
It costs
it's like
a lot.
it's like different because you're more mindful, and I guess that's what it all comes down to, right? It's just mindful consumption.
And ethics and stuff like that. Yeah, and I think that's a good thing. It's kind of like how if you tax something high, you're going to be a little bit more wary about like how you approach it. And I think that's what good things are. Like good thing, in my opinion, I think in a way, good things should be kind of expensive because it kind of give a reality check of that. Like, oh yeah, maybe I should be a little less. I should do a lot less consumption if I really want like good things. Maybe it's like the whole minimalism thing of like approaching to life. If I want great things, I should narrow it to like a small minimum kind of thing.
Yeah, and I think that's like I know I'm just going out on food and beverage and all that, but like
it's okay.
like it's because it's the easiest kind of like thing for me to grasp about when it comes to like mindful consumption.
Right.
Like if there's a reason why there's some whiskeys that are like $100 a bottle versus like a Jack Daniel's is like $20. You know,
Correct.
it's like yeah, it's there. However, very likely that the $100 whiskey you're going to savor that more. You're not going to do shots of
right,
of that
and I
whiskey
agree.
versus shots of Jack.
Yeah, I would do shots of bullets and bourbon, but I wouldn't do shots of the what's that one rum that we got from Hawaii?
Kahlua?
Yeah, like I wouldn't do shots of that. That's something I'm going to be sipping like for a long time. I still have like half a bottle left of that.
Or no, the Kula rum. The Kula.
Yeah. Like I still have a half a bottle of that. Like I'm enjoying it.
Yeah, me too. We're savoring that bottle too. So yeah,
until the next time we go to Hawaii. Yeah.
Well, because it's like we will go through everything else, and it's just kind of like savor. Same thing, like mindful consumption.
Yeah, and I think that's like
what this episode is.
It's mindful consumption, and at that price is to like kind of give us a reality check of it. Mindful consumption kind of does cost money, so I think we should be like when we make these choices, like we should be kind of like really smart about it. Like, I know that conventional food is like it's available, but if you can somehow turn like mindful consumption and like apply that to conventional food, like one, I think you would save a lot of money, and two, like you'd still be making like great choices and like whatnot, but you know you wouldn't be hurting your pockets over it. Yeah, mindful consumption.
All right.
So
I forget. Did you have you wanted to do a
segment?
New segment?
Yes, I wanted to experiment with a new segment. I don't know the name yet, but I guess I'm just gonna call it for now. Nerdy Cultural Moment TBA, or yeah, sure. Well, I'm gonna say TBA. I don't know.
Good.
So the whole segment is like Erwin and I are just gonna talk about two kind of like nerdy things that we've kind of like noticed within like the last episode, like from here to the last episode, like something nerdy. Well, it doesn't necessarily have to be like geeky or anything. It could be like something like hype BC or whatever. So Erwin has a good one and I have an interesting one. And do you want to go first or you want me to go first?
You go first.
Okay. Yeah, I guess mine's a little bit more weird. So mine is that Ash Ketchum finally wins his first Pokemon League after 20 years. And it was reported on CNN, Hypebeast, and like other news stations that Ash Ketchum finally won his first Pokemon Championship. And I think it's like the nuttiest thing in the world. Fucking this dude's been trying to get it since we were in middle school. And he finally fucking wins it. This forever 10-year-old finally wins it. He's got his ass kicked at so many tournaments.
That's why I never understood. Like, I mean, I get that you have to like not reintroduce, but you have to introduce new Pokemon in different regions because like the video games coincide, all that,
and they're all different protagonists too.
Yeah, well, it doesn't make sense. Like, yo, he fought. I thought it was what's the first region? The Kanto one, right? And then he's like,
he lost to Gary.
He's like, I lost. Like, oh, cool. I'm gonna just move on. Like, no, what? Why don't you train harder? Like, why don't you evolve your Pokemon, bro? Like,
right? Like, why doesn't he master that region and then move on to the next one?
Yeah,
like it reminds me of like those old martial arts, Japanese martial art movies back then, where like these different martial artists would go to different dojos, beat up the master, and take their side. But Ash Ketchum is like the reverse of that. He would lose each region and just move on to the next one. And it took him 20 years until he finally fucking won his
first at that point, you should have a shiny Pokemon. Let's be honest.
Right.
Like, there's something involved there.
He should have the most gruesome Pokemon team by now. Like, it should be like, I don't know. It should just be Charizard, Blastoise, and Venusaur. Like he should have all those like crazy ass Pokemon that are like buffed out and like ready like to murder anybody. But he doesn't. He has his Pikachu that somehow carries everything, which shouldn't make statistically sense. Like, it shouldn't destroy. But whatever. Like, either way, like, this dude finally won his first Pokemon championship. I am so happy, but I'm also like, my God, man, you could have like, I guess I could have said like, oh yeah, kids, keep your dreams alive.
Oh my God.
20 years later, you're going to keep your dreams alive. But actually, what I actually wanted to point it out too was that according to CNN, like, Junichi Masuda, the director of Pokemon, hints that maybe this might be Ash's like last story. They might move on to a different protagonist.
I think at that point, man, you might as well like. I would welcome that.
Right, that's what I was about to say too. Like, all right, man, you can change your outfit, but you're still the same ass loser who's been losing like all your tournaments. But good for you. I'm so proud of you. I didn't
realize that they like. I remember the screenshot when I guess viral, for lack of a better term. But I was like, oh yeah, they changed the animation a lot.
Yeah,
like, it's not. It's very cartoony for what it is now versus like the style of animation,
the 90s animation style. Yeah, it's way different. Definitely way different. So that's my nerdy moment. What about yours?
My nerdy moment is League of Legends. They announced a partnership with Louis Vuitton to design their trophy.
Oh, trophy, really? Okay.
For Worlds. And also B, to design, or I guess, I don't know, they're not going to design shit. They're going to, I guess, license Louis Vuitton
skins
in some of their skins.
Do you think they would put
just
those...
a fucking weird.
Right, but that's interesting because it's all headed by Virgil now, right?
Yes.
So I know like Virgil's been taking Louis Vuitton to a very good direction. Like, according to Scott Galloway, like Louis Vuitton's been kind of, since they got the new leadership, Louis Vuitton's kind of like adopting the fast fashion kind of mentality. So that's why they're always producing like so much crazy shit, like consistently rather than seasonally. So it's been an interest in like, I think what Virgil wants to do is introduce like the new generation into Louis Vuitton. So by making things a little bit more accessible and like affordable, like it will get like the kid their first Louis Vuitton bag or backpack or whatever.
It's so weird. Like, I really don't like. There's just like, well, from obviously an outsider looking in, my perspective is this kind of partnership with Louis Vuitton doesn't make sense.
It doesn't, and that's what makes it so interesting. Yeah.
I mean, I guess because like, for me, it's like kind of outrageous because it's like there's a disconnect. I'm like, with this, why are you approaching Louis Vuitton to do this thing?
This gaming thing.
Yeah, like it's not. it's so niche that it does. Like, I'm trying to find the entry point, and I think you are hinting upon that, where like there's this idea that Louis Vuitton still has to have this kind of cachet of being cool and luxury brand that is starting to slowly turn into try and do its due diligence to be more accessible,
Right.
and because of they have Virgil who has a lot of cachet with the stuff with Off-White and Kanye, so it's very interesting from like that point of view. But it's just also like, why Louis Vuitton versus and any other thing? Like, it doesn't make any sense. It's because it's not like Louis Vuitton is doing sports teams. It's not like Louis Vuitton is actually doing soccer, basketball, football, or any other international sport. It's like, oh, but we'll do your trophy for esports. Like, the fuck?
Okay,
Like,
but going back into like another weird Louis Vuitton collaboration, but like back then there was Hatsune Miku and Marc Jacob doing the Louis Vuitton summer line. Like, that's super absurd too, but like,
or even, I mean, yeah, just
super
even like
absurd.
how.
I mean, that wasn't a way to introduce like new people into Louis Vuitton, but it was a weird way of collaborating like a weird niche, like two weird niche cultures together.
Or let's talk about like the peak Louis Vuitton with Pharrell and Takashi Murakami, where
Oh my God, yeah.
the multicolor and
OP as hell.
they did that. What's the other one? The ads. Remember the ads that were like Studio Ghibli?
Yo, those were nuts. Yeah, the animation studios were nuts.
Yeah, it was like super cool, but it was like, well, why though?
Yeah, that's another like why though?
Like
you're right, and that's super niche. That's super like, I wouldn't like think of that back then. That for me, like as a nerd, like I would be like, that's like a great intersection of like the two things I really like. But man, yeah, like, so do you think at that time, like our generation would like the current generation was just not ready for it? Like, no, that's way too out there. Like, you're just grasping at straws. But if you like with League of Legends and like Louis Vuitton's kind of like, oh, I get it now. But at least like now they have like 15 million different like they have like 15 million fans of League of Legends who are now introduced to Louis Vuitton. Like, let's say only 10% of them actually start getting into Louis Vuitton. Louis Vuitton just basically generated so much money from that. Like, it's nuts.
I think that's, those are conservative estimates. I think I think there is more value to it, but it really just felt like this was spearheaded from Riot Games rather than Louis Vuitton.
Okay.
The way, what I'm saying?
It
like,
was just co-signed by Virgil. He's like, yeah, that sounds good. Sign it.
Yeah, it just feels like it doesn't feel like a organic thing. It felt like Riot was like, hey, what if we did a collab with Louis Vuitton? I'm like, this shit, what, bro? Like, like, why?
But then, like, if you were Louis Vuitton, or you're like a designer, or the head of like a really big fashion company, like a high premium fashion company, like, would you say yes? Like, I think if it was Marc Jacob, he wouldn't have said yes. But with it being Virgil,
Marc Jacob would be like, nah, this shit don't make sense.
Yeah, it doesn't make sense. But Virgil's like, he's so involved with like youth and popular culture. Like, for him, it's not a far stretch. You know what I mean?
I could see that. And
what if you have like $200
so weird
Louis Vuitton skins on League of Legends? Guaranteed, people are gonna fucking buy that, even if it's just fuck, I was gonna say Mac on their friends. Like, if to just up on their friends, like, yo, I got this fucking Louis Vuitton, like all my characters Louis Vuitton, my whole roster Louis Vuitton. Like, the fuck, like that's almost like
I get it.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can't hate on that. You're like, damn, those guys just fucking, they just spent That's $1,000 team right there.
It's like when you see somebody like wearing a whole
Supreme
outfit in real life. Like, why are you doing?
Like, why? Why are you wearing that? That's embarrassing and that's ugly. But that just shows that either you went in debt for that, or you have like hell money to afford that. I don't know.
Like, okay, like if when it comes to collabs with, I guess, notable collabs with Louis Vuitton, and I'm immediately thinking of like Supreme. I think of Fragment. I think of Takashi Murakami. Like those things make sense.
Correct.
Because of the market and the demographic. It just feels weird with League of Legends and esports, because like, does this open the door for other, let's say, fashion houses? Does this make sense if let's say Burberry wanted to get in on this, or if Gucci wanted to get in on this? Like, does this really make sense?
It doesn't.
Right? Like, it's just weird.
If they started doing it because Louis Vuitton is doing it, I would not be surprised. Like, yeah, if I start seeing more gaming companies or something like that start doing Gucci stuff, I wouldn't be shocked. Burberry, I'd be probably a little bit more shocked, but Gucci, I don't know, because I don't want to say like hip hop culture has like a big influence on it, but then like, since hip hop culture is pop culture, like, and like esports is also pop culture, like, it's not a far stretch for those two to blend in together and like kind of like taking everything else with them in a way. Like, for me, like, now it's not that far of a stretch for me. But if it was me 10 years ago, I'm like, no, that would never fucking happen. Like, that doesn't make sense. Like, fashion wouldn't go that way. Then again, Supreme has a brick, so I'm just saying.
That's where we're at. That's where culture is at.
And that's, I think, a good place to wrap up the podcast.
Oh, we're wrapping it up.
Yeah. And first off, I want to thank everyone for listening to today's episode. Yep, that's it. I couldn't think of anything smart.
Like, share, subscribe, rate us on iTunes. I'm still the only one who's rated our podcast.
I saw that.
Yeah, it's lit. Because I like my own fucking status updates, and I like my own tweets and retweet my own tweets.
Do you really?
Not all the time, but I do.
Oh, I respect that.
So,
like,
if
and
you're
subscribe
listening to this point, and if you want a question answered, or if you want your feedback incorporated, give us a review and we'll get back to it.
Or email us or something.
And shit, I don't know, something.
Okay, this is Difficult to Please. Thank you for listening. Peace out.
Episode 22? 22?
22. 22. All right. Peace.